It's vlog time. Welcome to my channel, In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne, and this is my weekly vlog where I wonder and I wander and I read a lot. So, join me. We'll see what I read this week. It's Monday. Normally I start this on Saturday. I'm 2 days late, but that's okay. And also it's June 1st. So, you know what that means. It is the beginning of the Red, White, and June readathon. Plus, it is week 1 of my How to Read a Book Summer School Reading Challenge. So, I have done already a little reading for Red, White, and June, although nothing that's on my actual TBR. So, I was looking for something on my Kindle that I could read over the weekend. I had a DNF and I was just like, I just wanted something not too deep. So I picked up in my Kindle library a book by Michelle Griep. The Captive Heart, I think it's called, which I didn't realize that she had written any revolutionary era novels. She's written a lot of historical fiction, but a lot of it is Victorian era or Regency. But this one is set in colonial era, but like 1770s South Carolina. And it would fit for the Secrets and Spies prompt because our main character is a bit of a spy. The main male character is a bit of a spy. It would also fit for Loyalists and Patriots because our main female character comes from England in the story and she's loyal to the crown. And then, of course, you know, the guy, he's a spy. And so he's a patriot. And it also would fit for the faith prompt because it is Christian fiction and there is definitely some faith struggles going on here and talk of faith, etc. So it's very interesting. Our main male character, what's his name? Samuel. He is he's an interesting character. They keep referring to him as a wild man, and like he kind of is. There's a little bit of a beast idea going on there. Not a very super likable guy, but at the same time, he does have a good heart. I'm seeing all kinds of like pretty little butterflies. Oh, that's so pretty. Anyway, sorry, I couldn't flip my phone around for you to see it too, but you'll just have to trust me that there was a pretty little butterfly. Just went fluttering right by. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, Samuel Heath. He was, yeah. Interesting, but he does have, you can tell he has a good heart underneath. It's just buried under an awful lot of gruff exterior. And there was a scene or two that was actually pretty hard to read in terms of, I don't know, violence, somewhat graphic, not very graphic, but enough that I was like, wow, we're really going here with this. And it was a little bit intense there. So it's not a completely lighthearted read. There is a lot going on. There are some tense moments. There are some heavier things, but it is good overall. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm about 75% of the way through. So that's what I was reading over the weekend. I need to pick up How to Read a Book today, and I also want to pick up 1776 as well as my nonfiction for the readathon. So we will see how far I get with that. So that is what I'm reading and what I'm going to be reading. And so I'll check in with you later.
This is weird. I just drove to school all by myself. I mean, I know most people go to work all by themselves all the time, but I usually have my children with me. But this is exam week, and they don't have to go in till later. And since my older son is now driving, he can drive them in later and they don't have to come in early and wait with me. So that was weird, but I got to listen to some booktube on my way, so there's that. That was nice. So today is the penultimate day of school. And yesterday I was, not gonna lie, a little bored. I only had 2 classes yesterday. I only have 2 classes today. Things are winding down. I do have end of the year stuff to do in my classroom, but none of that takes long. So anyway, it's gonna be another exciting day at work, but things are winding down and I'm very excited about that. And then this evening, we have nothing. Last night we had a sports banquet, which was fun. My oldest son got to celebrate one more time his undefeated middle school flag football team. And he also got to, he got the high school student athlete award. So that was fun. That was really nice for him. So that was great. But this evening we don't have anything planned. So other than taking care of responsibilities at home and possibly running errands, I might get some time to read. We'll see. A little more update later because I've got to go to work now.
So I have taught my last class of the school year. Tomorrow is the actual last day of school, but we don't do specials on the last day of school. So I'm going to be making coffee as an end of the year gift for my coworkers. And I have just now finalized my recipe for the Frappuccino that I am offering them. And it is so good. Oh my word. So I'm sitting out here on my deck enjoying it. This is 1.5 cups of ice, 3/4 cup of milk, 1 shot of espresso, 2 tablespoons of sweetener. So one of the tablespoons I used dandelion honey, which I made from dandelion flowers, and the other is dandelion honey, like it's honey that I bought where I guess the bees pollinated from dandelions. I don't know how they know that, by the way, but anyways. So yeah, I didn't have enough actual homemade dandelion honey for all of the people that ordered it, so I had to improvise a little bit, but it doesn't matter. It's not really a flavor, it's just a gentle sweetness, and it's perfect. And that recipe makes slightly more than fits in this cup. And then you top it with a little squirt of whipped cream. So good. I am reading How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler and somebody else. And if you want to join the discussion in my Discord group, the link is always in my description box. And we are reading part 1 this week. I've read 2 chapters so far, and I'm annotating all over the place and underlining things and wanting to underline the whole book, which is counterproductive, so I'm restraining myself, but finding so much in there that's informative and helpful and like, yes, that makes sense. Okay, cool. And also, right now he's just kind of laying the groundwork, and he's hinting at some things he's going to discuss more at length further in the book, and I'm getting really excited to dig into those things. So really looking forward to that, getting further into this book, and already enjoying so much of what I've read. Still trying to finish The Captive Heart by Michelle Griep, which I'm really enjoying. That one is set in South Carolina during colonial times, and where I'm at in this story now, our main male and female character, who, by the way, this is a marriage of convenience, by the way. So they have traveled with someone else who I am pretty sure is a British spy. They've traveled with someone else to who were those? Which tribe was it? Why can I not remember? One of the tribes in South Carolina, traveled to visit them. Now, our main male character has some connections to that tribe, which you see from the beginning of the story, although it's not fully revealed until you get later into the book exactly what the connection is, how he's connected to that tribe, but he has some connections to that tribe, and so they're taking this person there who they suspect is a spy, and So I'm thinking that there's going to be some trouble there. But I don't have a lot left in the book, so hopefully everything gets resolved pretty soon. But that's what I'm working on right now. I'm really trying to finish it. And then I have been carrying around 1776 by David McCullough for the past couple of days, but I have not read anything in it. But that will be the next thing the next book that I crack open. Probably once I'm finished with this one. And after that, who knows? We will see what happens. So that is my afternoon. I am getting ready tomorrow for the teacher's coffee drink, so I have to finish prepping all the ingredients and packing up as much as I can tonight, and then so I'm ready for that tomorrow. That's really the only thing. Plus I need to update our family calendar, so just stuff I need to do mostly at home. A quiet evening, so that's wonderful. But tomorrow my summer gets started, at least in part. The rest of this week is going to be kind of like half foot in summer, half foot in the school year, but we're getting there.
So this is fun. I am home already, and it's not even 1 o'clock. Normally, on Wednesdays, I don't get home until after our Bible study / prayer meeting in the evening, 9 o'clock maybe. I'm home already. It's wonderful. Long story short, because there are plenty of details that you don't care about, I was able to leave work early, even though the lower campus, the younger kids, they had a full day of school. I mean, okay, let's be real. They were having parties because it was the last day of school, but they're there until 3 o'clock. But I was able to leave. So I'm home now, and my piano students canceled because they're doing some renovations in their house. Where I give them their lessons, and so their piano was not accessible. So I have the whole evening free until 5:30ish, so the next 4 or 5 hours. How wonderful is that? So I'm hoping to update my reading journal because I haven't had a chance in the crazy of my life to sit down and do that yet. Also, the other day I was supposed to update my calendars, and I didn't do that, and I really need to do that because we have some upcoming stuff. I need to get everything straight. What's happening in the rest of June in our life, because it's a lot, and I need to get on the calendar. And hopefully also I will have a little bit of time to read, but we will see how that goes. So yay for a free afternoon. evening, and we are just little by little crossing off all of the end of the school year events. About ready to step into our summer. Still have graduation on Saturday. My oldest son, is officially a senior. What? And my younger son is a sophomore. So, yeah, exciting times around here. But anyway, I finished reading The Captive Heart by Michelle Greep yesterday. And I don't remember now what all I said about it before. But a brief synopsis is that our main female character is a young woman who falls on hard times in England, and arrangements are made for her to come to the colonies to work as a governess there. But things happen and she ends up being an indentured servant to pay for her passage. But the man who purchases her passage actually intends to marry her because he needs a mother for his young daughter. His wife had passed away tragically like the year before. That's the setup. It's 1770s South Carolina, before the Revolutionary War. The main male character is part Cherokee and part like Scots Irish. I don't know if his dad came from Scotland. I don't remember. Like, he was part, like colonist. And so he had kind of like one foot in both worlds. And there's a little bit of a Beauty and the Beast trope happening here. He has some scars from an injury, and he has a bit of a temperament due to some things that happened in his past. It's not that he's an unlikable character. You can see goodness in him. Like, he has really good qualities. I'm not going to take the time to, go into an in-depth character analysis here. But I will say I was a little skeptical of the relationship that developed in this marriage of convenience, because he very much was of the school of thought that there was no reason for him to ever inform his wife of anything of his thoughts and plans and ideas, because, why did she need to know? And all the way up through the end of the book, like, he's just doing these things that to her were completely incomprehensible. To the reader, you understand why he's doing it. You understand his perspective. She's clueless because he's not taking the time to explain to her. She's just supposed to go along with it. And somehow she manages to fall in love with him. I'm sorry, I am not that kind of girl, so I find it a little bit difficult to understand that. Like, just trust me, babe, isn't gonna work for me. So, yeah. I didn't really like that part about the story, about the relationship. I felt like it was unrealistic as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure there were girls like that, though. God bless them. So, anyway, didn't love that aspect, of the story, but otherwise, it was fine. It was good. It was fit perfectly for Jeanette's Christian Fiction Bingo for the June prompt, because it was indeed set in the summer. In fact, they were struggling with a drought and everything, so that just kind of amplified the summery aspects of it. So that was perfect for that. And I am glad, because I just kind of, I think I had been looking in my Kindle for Revolutionary era books, but for some reason I had initially skipped over that one. But I've had it on my Kindle for a long time. I am trying to read through some of the Kindle books that have been on there forever. And so, yeah, check, and done. So that is my first read for the Red, White, and June reading challenge. I also have been reading this week How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler, and really enjoying that. Tomorrow night, I'm hoping to have a little bit of a live discussion with whoever's available on my Discord server. And by the time you see this, that will have already happened, but I'm looking forward to that tomorrow night. There's one chapter in particular that was kind of mind-blowing for me when he talked about inspectional reading, which was basically skim reading and then superficially reading. And he goes into the details of what all he means by that. But when you pick up a book, I think it particularly would work best for nonfiction, but pick up a book and kind of get an idea of the framework of the book, where it's going, what its primary thesis is, what its primary arguments are. And then to read through it without stopping to try to understand anything that you don't already understand. And he calls that superficial reading. Now, superficial reading isn't good reading. It's not close reading. It's not in-depth reading. Like, you're not going to get everything out of the book that you need to if you're doing that. So he's not saying like that's where you stop, but he's saying you might realize when you do that with a book that you don't want to spend any more time on this book. You don't need to. You've gotten what you want to get out of it. Or, sorry, I had a bit of an interruption, so I don't know exactly where I was. But anyways, if you're doing this superficial reading, it's not good analytical reading, but it may be all you need to do with certain books. Like, you might come to the conclusion that I actually don't need to read this book anymore, and it will save you time. Or you might come to the conclusion, okay, this is a great book. I'm going to get a lot out of it. I want to read it more analytically. I want to read it more carefully. I want to read it more closely. And then you can embark on the analytical reading that he's trying to teach in this book. And that was a new concept for me, in a sense. Like, I have heard people say, like when it comes to classics, that the first time you read it, you should just read it for sheer enjoyment and not try to read it too analytically. Just enjoy it or not. But I find that sometimes with classics, you don't always enjoy it. And sometimes it's not until you read closely that you really appreciate it, because you can have a better sense of what the author is doing. I don't know. It was just an interesting thought to me to do this as a first step when tackling a book that maybe is a little intimidating. To do this first step of just skimming and then superficial reading and kind of dip your toe in it before you go any further. And some books you may choose not to go any further. Like, I feel like maybe I could approach Moby Dick like that. Like, I think I could give Moby Dick a superficial reading and be like, I don't need to read anymore, personally, without even picking up. Like, I've read a graphic novel version and I'm like, okay, I think I got the main point. I don't know that I really need to read the actual book. But anyway, something like that, like an intimidating, lengthy classic, you can like just read it superficially and you might decide, okay, that's good for now. Like, I don't need to spend any more time on this. Or you might decide, I feel like there's more here that I'm not getting and I want to dig deeper, so I'm going to read it again. So I liked that idea, and I think it is worth trying. So anyway, that was the primary thing that I got out of it so far. I have read a few pages in 1776, but not a lot. I haven't had a lot of time to read it because it's a hardcover, so I don't want to carry it around with me, and I haven't been, that's not true. I have it at home, but I haven't been reading much at home. I've been either napping or catching up on stuff. So I haven't done a lot of reading at home. My reading that I've done this week so far has mostly been when I'm out and about, and it's been mostly on my Kindle. So the other book that I picked up on my Kindle is the Belle of Chatham by Laura France, which is again for the Red, White, and June. And so that one I am enjoying. I've read, I don't know how far I'm into it, like maybe 15-20%, I'm not sure, but I'm really enjoying it. I don't know that I've read many books set in New Jersey, so that's a fun new setting for me. I also don't often think of New Jersey as being like a key place in the Revolutionary era, but it actually is. So that's interesting, and I'm enjoying that. And I will pick up more of 1776 and get further into that as we go forward. So that is what I'm reading now. I'm hoping right now to go and relax and get some solid reading in right now. So hopefully I will have at least one more update before I close out this vlog. I get it up. So see you in a little bit. It is it's Friday morning, and I have had a deliciously slow and somewhat lazy morning, which was wonderful. I have done a little bit of reading, not a tremendous amount, but a little bit. I finished the first part of how to read a book, and really enjoying that one. Looking forward to the discussion tonight. And I've read a little bit more of 1776 by David McCullough. I'm about 5% of the way through. I did decide to try my hand at the process of inspectional reading by skim reading first. And so when you skim read, according to the authors of the book, How to Read a Book, you skim read, basically you're determining the structure of the book and the basic content. You are looking at the table of contents at the beginning. So here, this book is divided into 3 parts, and 1 is the siege, 2 is the fateful summer, 3 is the long retreat. And then you go and you look at the chapters and their headings or quotes, etc., and kind of get a sense of what they're about. Maybe read a paragraph here and there or a page, but not the whole thing. And then what was most interesting for me, and something I've never done, was you go back to the index. Now, obviously, this sort of thing works best for nonfiction. I don't think that fiction books typically have a lot of things like this, except for maybe some really dense classics. But you go to the index, and essentially what you're doing here is you're identifying the key words so that you kind of have something to anchor your reading on, like what this book is about, the topics that are going to be discussed, the characters, the players, the places that are important to the story. And so doing that, I realized a couple things about this book. First of all, that he is focused on actually the year 1776, which oddly enough, I didn't realize before I picked up the book. Because, 1776 is the day that, or the year in which America declared their independence. And so I thought 1776 was just a catch-all year referring to that whole process of the Revolutionary War, the fight for independence, etc. But no, he's actually literally focusing on a limited span of time. He starts, I think, in October of 1775, and he goes to January of 1777, primarily focusing on the events of 1776 and not the entire scope of the Revolutionary War. So that helps me understand what the book is actually about. It's about what the title says it is, surprisingly. I know, it's kind of a shock to me, but that's what I discovered. And then in the index, looking for the keywords, I was able to realize that, not surprisingly, if you know anything about American history, but key places are Boston, Philadelphia to an extent, but New York primarily. Boston and New York are the places that he's going to be heavily focused on. Shows up heavily in the keywords in a variety of ways. Obviously, there's information about George Washington. He's another key player. King George III, another key player. But there's some other key players, generals on both sides of the army, and other politicians whose names will occur frequently. And there are obviously a lot of other places. There are some concepts that come up a lot in the keywords. So I just found that pretty interesting. I've never done that before, and it really did give me a sense of where we're going with this book. It was also interesting just to look briefly through the list of sources that he was utilizing, and oh my word, David McCullough, it's incredibly well researched. A lot of primary sources, but also a lot of other nonfiction works from immediately following the Revolutionary War up until the present day. And then he also gave a little note on his sources, which I read and I found very interesting because he also mentions places that he went to for his research, historic homes that he visited, and other areas. So I found that interesting also, as someone who loves to explore historic places and homes and towns, etc. I really enjoyed that. So, I have only actually read about 5% of the book, in other words, the first chapter, but I've learned a lot about what this book is about and what it's going to be discussing. I also think it's interesting that it is primarily about the war for independence, that as it happened, what took place in 1776, and only in 1776, primarily. But it opens with King George III in England and the debates in the House of Lords and the House of Commons when King George III is determining to basically wage war against the Americans. And that was an interesting angle to start the whole perspective from, and I found that very interesting as well. So
enjoying reading that one. And I read a little bit more in the Belle of Chatham as well, and enjoying that one. And yeah, that's what I've got going. I think when I'm finished, probably when I'm finished with the Belle of Chatham, I'm going to pick up Hang a Thousand Trees with Ribbons, which is about Phyllis Wheatley. Then I'm going to be reading her poetry, but you'll find out more about that in next week's vlog, because this is where I'm going to wrap up this one. So it was great talking to you this week and chatting with you about the books I'm reading. Please let me know in the comments what you're reading, and particularly if you're reading anything for Red, White, and June, if you've gotten your reading underway for that, and if you have any thoughts about it. And if you are joining in on the How to Read a Book Summer School Reading Challenge, let me know your thoughts on that here as well. And I will see you next time.